The White House last night claimed a key legal victory with a federal judge striking down a challenge to the emergency funding for President Trump's border wall. The challenge was mounted by congressional Democrats, and the decision means that, at least for now, the president will be able to continue using emergency funds from the Pentagon budget to build the border wall. At the same time, the administration seems close to clinching another partial win, with the Mexican government starting to seriously crack down on illegal immigrants traveling through Mexico, in a clear bid, obviously, to avoid Trump's threats of crippling tariffs. So for more on all of this, we're joined now by our panel. We have immigration attorney Allen Orr and conservative talk show host Steve Malzberg. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Good to be here.
So, Steve, I'm going to toss this to you first. So despite these emergency declarations, construction on the wall has kind of been slowed. Do you think, considering this decision yesterday and the election just around the corner, I mean, a year and a half is going to go by like this, the White House, do you think they'll speed up this building of the border wall?
Well, this was a big win. Basically, what the judge said was to Congress, you don't have standing in this case to sue the president, the executive branch, because you're not being harmed. You can't show that you're being harmed. Plus, you have other remedies. You're Congress. You could pass laws to accomplish what you want. So coming to court is not the answer. It doesn't apply, though, to subpoenas and other cases. He made that clear, which is not good for the White House. In answer to your question, California courts have ruled, district courts have ruled against the transfer of funds to build a border wall. So I'm not sure exactly legally where this stands. In fact, the Trump administration is undertaking an effort to limit district judges' decisions from affecting the whole nation. They wanted to limit just in their district. So that aside, but that's interesting. So I'm not sure that they could go ahead and transfer these funds because there are courts that said you can't.
Alan, you can chime in on that.
So not such a big win, right? If it's not clear that you can do it, then it's obviously not a big win, and Congress still has the power to overturn it. And sort of the mood in Congress right now is sort of moving away from some senseless spending, right? Because there's no claim right now that a wall will keep people from coming to the border, or we would have had the wall rather than the tariffs. So really a waste of time.
So Alan, the White House and the DOJ, they're still in court fighting a separate lawsuit by the Sierra Club and the Southern Border Communities Coalition is what they're called. So the matter, like you said, is not completely settled yet. But I would think we have some footage here that we want to pull up that the government released just from last week, catching a group of over 1,000 migrants or so crossing the border in just 5 minutes. We'll see if we have that video. So I know you've said this before, that this is a largely humanitarian crisis that's driving, there it is, there's a video driving all these people to the border. But looking at that video, doesn't that pose a potential national security threat?
No. If women and children are a national security threat because they're fleeing their countries for asylum, which is a legal remedy in this country,
sure, but Alan,
then that's problematic.
That's not all women and children.
There may be some men in there, too, but let's just sort of talk about the language that we're using. First of all, they're not illegal until they're in the country. So people who are coming across through Mexico are not illegal, and we shouldn't call them illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. Secondly, our people at the border are not apprehending thousands of people. People are coming to them and turning themselves over and asking for asylum. They're applying for a remedy from the American government, just like every other person does at a port of entry in the United States. So that is not problematic to have a system.
Those people running across there, not all of them are just disappearing. Some of them are actually turning themselves in.
Well, they're all turning themselves in. There's no way that the government could possibly have caught 100,000 people
in 5 minutes.
Exactly, with 4 or 5 officers.
We don't have any idea where those people went once they crossed illegally into our country. And to say, as you did earlier, that it's been established that a wall would not prevent, it's been established no such thing. Those people just came through a hole in a little fence or no fence. If there was a wall, I don't see them climbing over it, especially women and children. So it would be effective. We just don't have a chance to see it on a wide scale the way it should be.
Well, actually, what you would see is people then saying, I'll go down from the wall to actually find the port of entry. That's the real problem, that people don't know where the port of entry is. There are some people who are just crossing with coyotes and things of that nature of the sort, but really a lot of people are coming here seeking a remedy, and that's really what they're asking for. And you're not seeing, sure, you may see 1 or 2 people run away, but most people are running and then turning themselves in, asking for help.
Do a lot of people on the other side, do they know the process, though, if they were to go find CBP and say, I want a legal remedy, I want help?
They disappear after they get a court date. The majority of them never show up again.
Those facts are not true, right?
Oh,
They're just not true. First of all, the NTAs that have been issued, the notices to appear in immigration court, don't have dates on them because we're not able to process the system. So what it has been, always has been, is a failure of management. Because first of all, the Republicans had the House and the Senate and the White House for 2 years, and they could have passed an immigration bill. If an immigration bill is the remedy, then it could have solved it.
That is a fallacy. You need 60 votes in the Senate, and the Republicans never had 60 votes in the Senate.
If they had a remedy or even addressed immigration bills, has there been one substantive bill in this Senate at all regarding the immigration problem? No. All they do are vote on judges.
I will say that there has not been substantive action by Congress. Nothing out of Capitol Hill, anyway, that impresses me.
Yeah. Right. And secondly, when people get the NTA, let's just finish this part, 60% of them do show up when they have a date and a location for which to show up. We're constantly shipping people across the United States and saying, please come back to this date in this strange place in a language that they may not speak. So it's a failure of our management, not the people.
That is right. There's only about a 30-some-odd% failure to appear.
Okay, well, I think the number is much higher. But first of all, the last president that had the White House and 60 votes in the Senate and Congress and could have done anything they wanted on any issue was President Obama for his first 2 years. He had 60 Senate votes, and all he did was Obamacare and absolutely nothing else. No president since then, and at no time has anybody had it. We agree
that there's a failure by the politicians, right?
Well, I'm just saying, you're saying that if the fallacy is that the Republicans have the Senate so they could do what they want. No, you need 60 votes in the Senate to get something done, and only Obama had that.
So Steve, I want to stick with you for a second here. Trump is taking a hard line with Mexico in recent weeks with these tariffs starting at 5%, going all the way up to October that could reach 25%. That's a pretty big gamble politically. Do you think that's a winner?
Yeah, I've been amazed, to be honest with you, at the conciliatory nature of the Mexican president and the Mexican authorities. They're in town. The top negotiators are in town this week here in Washington. They're expressing optimism. They think that they could come to an agreement and a compromise proposal. And that's what Trump's all about. He's about compromise. Propose the most outlandish, most severe punishment and proposals and get something in return. I think Mexico's going to step up, and they're going to do at least something more than they're doing now, because they do have responsibility. And Trump is 100% right. They have to control their border. They don't let people come in their southern border and stay in their country, so they shouldn't be allowing people to come through their southern border and march all the way into our country without any penalties put upon them.
Now, Alan, I want to give you the last word on this, because on the other side, Mexico, from our side of the border, it sounds like Mexico's caving in and they're buckling, right, to these tariffs. And obviously,
it doesn't sound like that because the meeting is tomorrow, so nothing has happened.
Nothing's happened fully yet, but it sounds like, at least from one New York Times report, they described the situation saying, quote, detentions and deportations in Mexico are multiplying quickly, sowing fear among the many thousands of Central Americans and others. So are you at least concerned on that end in them trying to appease Trump, that they might start putting these migrants in dangerous conditions on the other side of the border?
Right. Well, we already said Mexico is a dangerous condition because the State Department has given it from a 1 to 4, do not travel, do not go to these certain parts of Mexico. So that's already a known issue. Tariffs are taxes, and Republicans should be firmly against taxes on American citizens, right? Tariffs are never the answer. In addition to that, when we sort of think about remedying this problem and sort of thinking about why is Mexico our defense to our border, right? We're sort of enlisting Mexico to do something that we should be able to address as our own problem, because there are tons of other people coming in by air and plane through other ports of entry that we're not asking other countries to address in the same fashion. So this is a very special, very localized fear that someone's sort of harping and saying this is the very fear rather than addressing the problem.
Yeah, I think the New York Times thing is trying to say that is Trump making it worse?
He is making it worse.
By now Mexico detaining them versus the U.S. detaining
But I will
them.
give Trump one good answer. The administration, through the new head of the DHS, did go to Guatemala and has made to address those push factors to say, let's start working in these home countries to see why people are leaving and changing the programs and working with American companies there.
That is not our problem, and Americans don't care about why Guatemalans are leaving Guatemala. We care about the sanctity of our border, and borders make a country, and we need to protect our borders.
Well, you have to address the push factors if you're going to address the problem at your borders.
All right, gentlemen, obviously an ongoing debate. We got to leave it right there. Steve Malzberg, Allen Orr, thank you both for your time today.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.